Famous figures who secretly operated as intelligence agents. During World War II, as millions of American young men were charging onto the shores, traveling between Normandy and Ireland. In the Pacific, several of Hollywood's most prominent stars were engaged in a unique type of a covert conflict waged in the shadows behind enemy territory. Dim, secluded back rooms illuminated only by their allure, their intelligence, and their skillfulness. To undergo a complete transformation into a different person as of today. Get ready for a countdown of 10 famous faces who exchanged their limelight for obscurity, their clandestine coding scripts, and their notoriety for the most perilous game imaginable. These weren't merely espionage performers uplifting spirits at USO. These individuals were highly skilled and trained agents who gambled it all for liberty, you believe. You're familiar with the tale of Hollywood's golden age, a time of the conclusion of World War II will be explored in this video. You're going to find that some of your beloved stars from Hollywood's golden era often led double lives. Lives fraught with such peril that the truth stayed secret for many years from ballrooms of Paris to the depths of submarines. The Adriatic Sea, recreated on Hollywood's sound stages. To the heart of Nazi territory, these are famous figures who discreetly operated as intelligence agents. Let's explore these concepts within the context of World War II. Remarkable previously classified tales that will alter your perception of silver. Sterling Hayden's enduring presence on screen, forever etched in our memories as number 10. The celebrity turned Marine. Let's commence our countdown featuring Sterling Hayden, the strikingly handsome actor who appeared as if he were destined for a life of cowboys and warfare. However, what might surprise you is this: heroes. Hayden truly embodied those roles. His actual life and his experiences during the war were significantly more impactful than anything he had ever experienced. Preceded Hollywood's on-screen debut, Hayden's presence was discovered aboard a ship. A captain whose heart belonged to the sea above all else, even fame. When the attack on Pearl Harbor occurred, he didn't, though bound by contract to Paramount Pictures in possession of a surefire route to fame awaited Hayden. Escaping the hustle and bustle, the Office of Strategic Organizations hired him for missions involving. In Yugoslavia, he made his descent via parachute. Adversary territories to deliver weaponry and collaborate with rebels. Despite Nazi occupation, however, this is where things get particularly intriguing at Paramount. Pictures was enraged. They issued threats. Lawsuits alleging he was violating their funding was exposed to considerable danger. His existence within a European conflict, and subsequently they urgently desired his return to the set without delay. Hayden's reply was a declaration of outright resistance. He left the open-source software community and joined the Marine Corps. As a typical soldier deployed in several the most brutal battles in the Pacific, when he at last returned to Hollywood following after the war, he was a transformed individual. The allure and the artificiality of filmmaking seemed empty, in contrast to the stark realities of life and death. Many years later, he recalled during Hollywood's blacklist period, Hayden encountered a different type of pressure. However, that's a tale for a different occasion. What truly holds significance is this is how it was when his nation summoned him. Hayden prioritized obligation over financial gain. Prioritizing service above fame, Julia ranked ninth. the young chef who prepared. Intelligence existed long before her teaching endeavors began. Learning to make cocoa from Julia Child, the American way, was in the process of creating something completely new. Various intelligence missions for the OSS, indeed, the very same woman who later gained renown for introducing French. American kitchens embraced global cuisines. During World War II, research efforts focused on developing shark repellent, establishing covert intelligence operations, operating within the OSS offices situated in Washington. A child in China was implicated in a salon incident. Several of the war's most atypical clandestine operations. Her team created shark operations, a deterrent designed to ward off the perilous, keeping predators at a distance from underwater explosives. Envision explaining to someone from 1970 that the happy woman instructing them to a formerly deboned chicken had once lived her days, determining methods to prevent sharks from hampering military actions. However, a child's most impactful contribution was her involvement in morale operations, the department tasked with mental combat against the adversary. She played a key role in creating recipes for Invisible. The company fabricated documents and provided assistance in the process of devising operations that would discourage enemy soldiers. What's the extraordinary nature of Julia Child's contributions? This is how her post-war life was formed her. Her time spent in Asia introduced her to diverse experiences, cultures and cuisines interwoven, laying the foundation for her future cooking experiences and her journeys with comprehensive, systematic intelligence operations will be advantageous for her as she commenced creating cookbooks demanding exact guidelines and meticulous consideration, too. Upon Child's eventual rise to fame, by the time she reached her 50s, she remained relatively unknown. Her wartime experiences were rarely discussed, it openly choosing to allow her. Gastronomic accomplishments are self-evident. However, let there be no misunderstanding beforehand. She was a cherished French chef, adored by the American public. Julia Child possessed a background in intelligence, agent who dedicated her service to her nation with eighth distinction bestowed upon Josephine Baker, the artist who waltzed with peril. Josephine Baker's tale is a narrative of the most extraordinary stories of bravery and the most profound patriotism you've ever encountered, originating from St. Raised in poverty, Louis Baker discovered recognition in Paris as a performer, both in dance and song, but upon the Nazis' invasion of France, she was confronted with a decision: seek refuge in America. Instead of retreating, Baker decided to engage in combat. And her renown was her instrument, cherished as a beloved. The entertainer Baker had the privilege of accessing senior German military officials who witnessed her shows. They observed her as delightful amusement, something beautiful, a dancer whose exotic persona made posing impossible. How mistaken they were regarding any perceived danger. Baker leveraged her performances as chances. For the purpose of information gathering, she would blend in with German officers, captivating at social gatherings. With her vibrant character, during their recollection of past conversations concerning the relocation of troops, supply routes, and scheduled operations as captured in her photographs. Her memory enabled her to hold onto extraordinary, extensive amounts of intricate details. However, Baker's most perilous endeavors encompassed journeying across Europe under occupation, disguised as entertainment tours. Concealed within her sheet music lay encoded messages, communications carrying crucial information. During the French Resistance, she engaged in clandestine operations of smuggling. Images documenting German constructions by securing them within her lingerie. Understanding that male officers would be excessively reluctant to perform comprehensive searches. The dangers were unprecedented. Baker transported cyanide-filled capsules that were concealed as bobby pins poised for a self-inflicted ending. Instead of facing capture and torture, she was aware that her celebrity wouldn't be her shield should the Germans uncover her genuine. Following the liberation of France, the mission, General Charles de Gaulle himself bestowed upon Baker the Portray honor and elevated her to the status of a member of the Legion of Honor. But the service had a price, and when she subsequently attempted to go back to America during the civil rights movement, the FBI's perspective on her was left-leaning political affiliations with doubt gnawed at her regarding the nation she had dared to jeopardize her. Living a life dedicated to dismantling fascism starting today, perceived her as a possible danger. Josephine Baker demonstrated the essence of heroism. Exists in various forms, and occasionally the most unexpected individuals often achieve the greatest things. Masterful Spies. Noel Coward ranked 7th. The author of plays who penned scripts for the famed playwright Noel Coward was renowned for his espionage. Clever plays, sophisticated musical compositions, and cuttingly sharp wit, the thing that remained unclear. It wasn't until many years passed that this master. He was also a skilled wordsmith, a master spy, using his fame and global recognition, links to collect intelligence for British intelligence agencies known for their discretion. The cover was flawless. It was a resounding success. The writer and composer embarked on a journey, frequently associating with the upper class. Individuals throughout Europe and America might consider the ostentatious performer of the espionage trade. His dramatic personality was excessively flamboyant that it appeared inconceivable that he could maintain secrecy. However, that was precisely Coward's intention. His public image was so firmly set in place that it offered seamless concealment for his work in intelligence. He participated in diplomatic gatherings, cultural functions, and social events where indiscreet conversations frequently occur. Unveiled crucial details. His capacity for recalling conversations, a skill meticulously cultivated over many years of reciting lines by heart, made him an asset of immense worth. Coward's most crucial procedures undertaken, journeying to South America for the purpose of monitoring, evaluate German actions, and analyze their political implications. Feelings and opinions held by different governments. He also strived to shape American public opinion. Perspective prior to the United States involvement. He waged war, employing his charisma and intelligence to persuade prominent Americans of the significance of backing Britain. Renders Coward's narrative especially. What's intriguing is the way he managed to balance his public life intertwined with his covert work for the Secret Service. Kept writing and performing during the entirety of the war, employing his artistic serve as a disguise for his cleverness. Certain of his theatrical works from the war years and musical compositions subtly disseminated propaganda. Communications crafted to enhance British, preserve spirits, and sustain backing for the war. Following the war, Coward faced scrutiny. His impacts on British culture, however, the full scope of his military service during the war, remained secret for many years. He seized. He took his secrets with him to the grave, passing away in 1973, never disclosing the complete extent of his intelligence operations. 6. The actress known for her encryption skills, Hedy Lamarr. Many individuals recall Hedy from the past. Lamarr, a prominent figure in Hollywood, as one of its most gorgeous actresses, a captivating woman who starred in movies such as Warnings and Samson and Delilah, yet Lamarr harbored a secret that remained utterly concealed, was not disclosed until many years following her passing. She was an exceptionally gifted inventor who innovations born from wartime would ultimately assist in developing the technologies we utilize daily. Hedwig Kiesler entered the world in Austria on a day in Lamarr possessed a natural inclination toward science, and her initial union was with a mathematician, an Austrian weapon supplier who had close ties, affiliated with the Nazi Party throughout. Dinner gatherings hosted at their residence, I heard while military officers were discussing the constraints of their armaments, specifically the issue of radio-controlled enemy signals interfering with torpedoes operation. Upon Lamarr's flight to America and transformed herself into a Hollywood luminary, she possessed this technical expertise. However, her actions went beyond simply filing it, fading into the recesses of unpleasant recollection. Alongside composer George Antheil, she created a groundbreaking frequency leapfrogging technology designed to circumvent, preventing radio signals from interference. There, a 1942 patent-granted invention was presented for the U.S. Navy's guidance purposes. The level of technological sophistication was remarkable in the case of torpedoes. The Navy swiftly classified the item, considering it of paramount importance to the nation. The release of security measures is impending. This consequently implied that Lamarr did not receive any acknowledgement for her efforts enduring. What truly sets this narrative apart is the span of her entire life. More striking is the fact that Lamarr's frequency hopping technology emerged as the basis of contemporary wireless technology. Communications, the fundamental ideas are utilized in a wide range of applications, including wireless technology, encompassing cell phones, Wi-Fi, and GPS systems, has revolutionized. Stunning actress who appeared to epitomize the allure of Hollywood stardom had in fact originated. Innovation that would revolutionize In today's world, Lamarr persisted with her innovative endeavors persisted throughout the war, creating all aspects of, starting with traffic, illumination system for a fizzy beverage tablet. However, her utilization of frequency hopping technology was protected by a patent, was kept secret until the 1980s, and she didn't attain complete acknowledgement for her work up through the late 1990s. Clark Gable ranked 5th the King. Classified assassination operation targeting Hitler. Clark Gable held the throne of Hollywood. Dashing scoundrel who stole hearts. In the story of Gone with the Wind, this event occurred one evening, however, following the passing of his cherished wife. The actress Carole Lombard tragically lost her life in a plane accident. During his war bond sales efforts, Gable became a man overwhelmed by sorrow and a searing passion, avenging desire against the Nazis, rather than submerging himself in Hollywood's social circles. Gable participated in military aviation, originally known as the Army Air Forces, initially desired to retain him within the United States for promotional reasons, but Gable was adamant about. The following events unfolded as a result of combat duty. Designated for almost 4 decades, Gable wasn't solely engaged in conducting bombing raids over. In Europe, he was undertaking a confidential mission: eliminate Adolf Hitler personally. Here's what a remarkable tale this becomes in German. Intelligence agencies had pinpointed Gable as a high-priority target. Heinrich Himmler was offered a reward for the actor's capture, offering any German pilot who downed. Gable was swiftly given a promotion upon his plane's arrival, and a significant monetary incentive. Hitler, evidently an admirer of American films, reportedly desired Gable apprehended alive too, could be awarded as a reward. However, the OSS transformed this burden into one. They leveraged Gable as a lure, relying on the Germans' deep-seated preoccupation with securing the biggest name in Hollywood to bring him within striking distance of the Nazis' leadership. Each time Gable took to the skies, German aviators relinquished control of enemy airspace. The objectives they were tasked with pursuing for him. Throughout these assignments, Gable discreetly capturing images of strategic locations, deployments, and information acquisition. Regarding German aircraft manufacturing, his bomber was fitted with specialized cameras, and his team comprised skilled intelligence operatives, officials who were involved in assessing the strategic significance of prospective targets. The assassination plot was intricate, and Gable, a dangerous individual, had received training in close combat. Quarters designed for combat and outfitted with. The intention was to employ specialized weaponry. He was apprehended following a botched operation, then leverage his perceived standing as a inmate to facilitate his proximity to high-ranking individuals. Nazi leaders, which may encompass. Hitler undertook the mission himself. Finally called off by the Allies. It was assessed by intelligence that Hitler, living and exhibiting increasingly unpredictable behavior, military judgments held greater significance. Rather than Hitler being deceased and possibly succeeded by more capable leadership. However, for months Clark Gable soared through the air, enemy ground, understanding that a German aviator soaring through the sky was instructed to bring about his downfall. When Gable came back to post-war Hollywood, he remained eternally transformed. The carefree allure that had made his fame was moderated by the burden of his experiences, and actions were seldom revisited. Discussed his experiences during the war, focusing on many of his secrets remained with him until his death. 4. Cary Grant, the epitome of a sophisticated secret agent who observed fellow spies. Cary Grant exemplified refined elegance on screen, similar to North by Northwest and A Catch a Thief. Ironically, his actual life during wartime was that of a thief. The activities exhibited a remarkable similarity. For the spy characters he would subsequently display on screen, however, rather than being the agent, Grant observed the spies in action. For the Federal Bureau of Investigation to keep an eye on suspected Nazis, supporters within the Hollywood sphere originating from Archibald. In Bristol, England, Grant encountered a leech. Direct experience of what life was like, as if facing the imminent danger of a Nazi invasion. At the onset of war, he yearned with all his might to serve the interests of Britain, yet his American filmmaking His career enhanced his value in A. J. Edgar Hoover with diverse capabilities. I personally selected Grant for a position. Insider from the Hollywood sphere. The Federal Bureau of Investigation harbored significant anxiety regarding Nazi impact within the film industry and required an individual possessing Grant's social acumen, possessing a commanding presence and allure, able to move effortlessly through. Possible suspects Grant attended gala events and societal gatherings across the entirety of Hollywood while maintaining meticulous attention to detail, monitoring and documenting discussions and affiliations he wasn't merely seeking. For individuals who openly identify as Nazis, the FBI was worried about Americans who political leanings could influence them, susceptible to German influence or recruitment. It was Grant's unique qualities that made him stand out in the selection process. His genuine popularity proved to be highly effective, in contrast to certain actors who portrayed roles. Grant was beloved by everyone. Colleagues held him in high regard, and those who trusted him shared their secrets with him. They welcomed him into their midst and extended an invitation to their premiere. He leveraged this trust for personal gatherings, not for the sake of breaking friendships, but for the purpose of safeguarding his adopted homeland from the hands of those who would cause damage to Grant's FBI submissions. Display a man navigating a delicate balance. He balanced the demands of duty with his own moral compass. Data concerning objectively questionable matters. Actions while safeguarding coworkers, whose sole offense was being disliked. In numerous instances, his political viewpoints. Reports genuinely assisted in exonerating individuals who the actor had fallen victim to unfounded suspicions. He maintained his excellence in intelligence operations. By the 1950s, at the peak of his records, ultimately ended up on the Hollywood blacklist, made available under the auspices of Freedom of the Information Act depicts a man who grasped the distinction between nationalistic fervor and suspicion fueling his nation while striving to shield the blameless. Grant, seeking refuge from persecution, took his people. Even his most trusted confidants kept secrets closely guarded. His friends were unaware of his work with the FBI continued its investigation into him for many years after he died. In public, he continued to be captivating, a suave and accomplished leading man who appeared to sail through life with no worries in sight. Iconic actress Marlene Dietrich, ranked third globally, the German luminary who turned against her nation. Maybe no celebrity espionage tale is more prominent than, more emotionally intricate than Marlene's. Dietrich, hailing from Germany and already possessing. In that prominent star sphere, Dietrich made a decision, which would irrevocably alter her life from that point forward when she made the choice to embrace American life. Individual and actively oppose. The Nazi regime's stance on Dietrich's choice was the Nazis had subtly pursued her, boldly guaranteeing her whatever she desired, her repatriation to Germany, and serve as the main star of their movie. It was said that even Hitler himself was involved in the industry, captivated by her and the persuasive power of propaganda. Minister Isef Gerbils consistently stated, attempts to persuade her to join. Instead of remaining at home, Dietrich opted for exile. Democratic engagement and active opposition. Under the auspices of the OSS, Dietrich embarked on several endeavors. Her most perilous wartime assignments. Her German heritage and widespread renown made her exceptionally beneficial for psychology. combat actions she documented, Nazi opposition propaganda disseminated through broadcast media, directly addressing the German people in Germany, troops and non-combatants within their own, language compelling them to yield and forego Hitler, yet Dietrich's most. The hazardous nature of the work entailed journeys to the stages set up near the battlefields to amuse Allied soldiers and collect information. She wasn't merely entertaining troops, she was interrogating German war captives regarding her first language and comprehension of German cultural practices aimed at acquiring valuable assets. The potential dangers were immense. If had Dietrich been captured, deemed a betrayer of the utmost degree, the Nazis had previously proclaimed her a state adversary and seized. Her German possessions would be seized, signified certain fatality following an extended period of. What factors contribute to the compelling nature of Dietrich's narrative? Especially touching is the personal. The price of her decisions, she was isolated from her family in Germany, left without any knowledge of. They had found safety, or perhaps even life itself. Her mother perished in a conflict, and Dietrich were unable to attend the funeral, as many Germans. Even following the war, she remained viewed as betrayer who had deserted her nation in its time of greatest need. Dietrich found himself with no. She realized that a sense of regret existed. Distinction between Germany and her birth and the Nazi government which had. Her experiences during wartime left her tainted. Here, the Medal of Freedom, America's topmost civilian recognition, and the French Legion of Honor following the conflict. Dietrich grappled with the intricate feelings of her decisions contributed to their victory over her home country to preserve its cherished principles. She held onto the conviction that it was a weight she carried, borne throughout her entire lifespan, but one she endured with her usual fortitude and respect. Secondly, Ronald Reagan. Confidential background checks for potential future presidents. Prior to his rise to fame as the Jipper, upon becoming president, Ronald Reagan was a freelance worker for Warner Brothers, creating films about bees and the Wild West. But during the Second World War, Reagan fulfilled his nation in a manner that persisted. Designated as confidential until the 1980s, serving as a member pertaining to the highest level of classified military intelligence. During his service, Reagan was placed in the Army Air Force's inaugural film division, formally designated for the purpose of training and propaganda movies, but the unit possessed a covert operation of significantly higher secrecy involving the fabrication of Japanese films created for propaganda purposes aimed to discourage enemy forces and disseminate misinformation. Operating within the guidance of the OSS by Reagan and his colleagues developed remarkably complex films that seemed to be Japanese armed forces communications, but, in fact, included inaccurate details regarding the number of American soldiers engaged in combat. Schemes and logistical networks. These movies were subsequently apprehended by Japanese troops and scattered across their armed forces. Reagan's abilities as an actor were essential to these processes. He was content to merely act in those fictitious movies, craft the personas and characters that would render them convincing to Japanese people. His comprehension of his audience is profound. Psychology has evolved over many years of. The process of filmmaking proved to be incredibly beneficial. generating propaganda aimed at the Japanese. Officials would deem believable what's noteworthy concerning Reagan's wartime service shaped him for his later political endeavors techniques. He gained expertise in audience engagement. Film would prove advantageous to him as the exceptional communicator possessing a deep understanding of how visuals and stories might influence public sentiment evolved into a fundamental pillar of. Despite his political triumphs, Reagan discussed this facet of his time in the war service despite his ascension to the presidency. The approaches and strategies devised by its classification was maintained for reasons pertaining to national security. It was not until decades passed that the full extent of this psychological combat, the details of the operations were made public. The irony is that Reagan, the same individual who would later become renowned for his uncompromising position on during the war years, communism focused on refining its practices, the craft of propaganda and misinformation. Firstly, the spy network you've never encountered. Our top choice was already known to exist, are not associated with a single celebrity, but rather with an whole network of performers who collaborated on the most daring intelligence activities during the war. The cultural facet of Operation Bernhard's endeavors. Historians have documented Operation Bernhard as the Nazi forgery enterprise. Less widely recognized is the fact that the Allies established their own star-studded network. Operatives deployed to penetrate neutral nations and collect information about Nazi financial transactions conducted through this network. Featured were jazz musicians from Broadway, actors, and famous Hollywood figures who journeyed across South America, allegedly for entertainment purposes, but truly tracing Nazi financial crimes, activities, and recognizing German spies operating in impartial nations. The operation was conducted with such extreme secrecy that numerous individuals were unaware of its existence. The participants were unaware of their involvement. Within a broader network, each celebrity, when assigned particular musical tasks, a jazz musician, you might observe the German tourists at a nightclub in Buenos Aires during a Broadway. The dancer monitored financial transactions. She gleaned snippets of information at embassy gatherings. The effectiveness of this network stemmed from the fact that performers were anticipated to journey to show a thirst for knowledge about people and locations, and to recall information concerning the affluent and influential individuals they met. Their chosen field offered ideal concealment for what amounted to intelligence, assembling the celebrities participating in. This procedure encompassed several of the leading figures in American show business. However, their names were kept secret. For more than half a century, numerous individuals believed their secrets remained buried forever. Their function within the realm of intelligence. Historians currently regard one of the most achieved cultural proficiency. Historical operations, even in our present time, continuously expanding my understanding of the full extent of. This network released formerly classified documents. Keep on uncovering fresh names and fresh processes demonstrating the vast scope of. Hollywood played a clandestine role in the war. In opposition to fascism, these narratives of famous spies divulge a secret, deeply impactful reflections on the greatest generation. Their eagerness to give up personal honor for a nobler purpose, these stars might have leveraged their renown to circumvent. The risk lies in staying comfortable when others are not. engaged in combat and perished. Rather, they opted to gamble everything for liberty but there. The service had a price, and many faced hardship as a result. While safeguarding these secrets for many years, Hedy Lamarr's life did not extend to witness the complete fulfillment of acknowledgement of her contributions to. Marlene Dietrich embodied the spirit of technology. The weight of being labeled a traitor by certain individuals. Clark Gable, a fellow citizen of hers, came back, transformed by war, forever bearing its indelible mark. His experiences and actions remained hidden, shrouded in secrecy. This also signified that their contributions to the war's demands were disregarded, or, although we acknowledged their achievements, the enjoyment factor caused us to overlook the fact that some of the celebrities we admire most had fulfilled their displayed bravery as valiantly as any warrior. Why are we drawn to tales of sailors or airmen? Significance today in a time when fame culture frequently appears superficial, and these self-centered tales serve as a reminder to us. Fame possesses the potential to be a force for positive change. Performers leverage their influence through their platforms not solely for personal benefit, but with the intention to serve something exceeding their own scope there. Narratives also serve as a reminder that the fight against fascism wasn't solely achieved through combat zones, but in covert missions, intelligence operations, and the dissemination of propaganda. Victories and campaigns were achieved by the people who were prepared to transform into someone different to lead dual existences for the sake of sacrifice. Everything dedicated to freedom, maybe most. Significantly, these narratives reveal to us that heroism manifests in diverse ways. You don't require you to wear a uniform for your service. On occasion, the most impactful solutions come from a country's. The service operates in secrecy, unacknowledged and uncelebrated, originating from Clark Gable's covert operation to eliminate. Please provide me with the complete sentence or context for paraphrasing. I need more information to accurately paraphrase Hitler to Hedy Lamarr's. Could revolutionize the world. These famous individuals demonstrated the most significant roles of their experiences weren't depicted on screen, but rather truly lived. In actuality, they exchanged fame for secrecy, a haven from peril, and individual achievement in service of a larger purpose. These weren't merely performers, they were individuals who cherished their nation and understood that liberty has a price, and occasionally the cost of liberty is not borne on war zones, yet concealed within encrypted chambers, communications, and perilous assignments concealed on your next viewing of a film set in enemy territory. Classic Hollywood cinema, recall that several of your beloved celebrities were admired for their heroic qualities, engaged in a clandestine battle in the real world that remained concealed for many years. Their impact, it's not merely the films they created, but they aided in the preservation of freedom. What do you consider these amazing tales? If any of these come as a surprise, please let us know. Which famous figure is the subject of these comments? Which story had the most profound impact on you? And if you found it fascinating to learn about Hollywood's hidden truths, remember to give this video a thumbs up, soldiers. And don't forget to subscribe for additional captivating narratives from the era of splendor until we meet again. Keep in mind that occasionally the most significant performances take place when the cameras are rolling, are not in motion.